Stop. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, I do the live ones too. Yes, I know. I saw your act in the theater. You're really quite good.
Quite a certain harmful habit.
Stop it now, I'm leaving.
Hello and welcome. We are breaking up with RBS, and I am Tawny Santabria. This is episode number 74.
And I am JDK Winnikin, and this is still episode 74.
Excellent.
I know, for the next half hour. So.
For the next half hour.
Episode 74. Here we are.
Yes, we are.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and I hope all of you out there listening are doing well. If you're listening live, good morning. If you're listening as a podcast, thank you for subscribing, leaving us a review and comments. Really appreciate that. You can also check out our YouTube channel for the video feed of this, where we're looking at you intently right now at Breaking Up with RBS. We also have a Facebook group of the same name that you can join, get content in between, as well as special events, updates on our book project. You can also check out Tawny's 6-week self-mastery course at unperfectyourself.com and apply all these things that we talk about here every week in your own life, in your own context, in a 6-week time span. See what happens.
That's what we're doing. We're always just seeing what happens.
Providing opportunities.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right. Well, here we are again.
Yes, we are here.
We've covered a lot the last few weeks.
Well,
Perfectionism, unpleasantness,
mm-hmm.
lots of other things. There's always plenty to talk about.
Always. And they all sort of weave together.
They do.
Right? So even if you've missed something, you're going to hear it again, maybe in a different way, in a different context, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things that are going to help, folks to kind of get rid of what's not helping anymore.
Yeah. Those BS stories tend to be really what we spend a lot of our emotional energy on.
Yeah.
Needlessly.
Yes.
There's more ease is available. Anyway. So any thoughts on what you want to talk about?
Well, I have a thought.
Okay.
It looked like I just noticed that you might have had a thought.
I have something on my chest.
You have something to get off of your chest.
That's really good on the video feed. You can see that.
It does.
It's my sweatshirt, for those of you not watching, says focus in big.
I didn't know we were getting t-shirts about our topics now, but I got to check this out.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
Yes.
So that would be expensive.
It kind of would be, right?
Really expensive. Because then the pressure would be we'd need a new one for every week.
Yes. But then because everything weaves together, we might be able to reuse.
Yeah, we can bring it back.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
yeah. Who knows?
Next, Boo-Ob's the t-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be funny.
We could do all kinds
of
things.
It says focus on it.
Focus.
So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So let's go. I don't have this to get off my chest. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
So. All right. Let's go there.
Okay. So focus. What comes up for you when that word is used?
Depends on the context, I guess. If I think of immediately when I was a kid and a teacher was yelling at me to focus.
Oh,
so
so
focus.
You have
Pay attention.
Quite a relationship with the word.
Pay attention. Focus. Pay attention. That was early on. For me now, it's there's still, I guess, somewhat similar. Pay attention to what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
What's here right in front of you. Focus for me is a present thing.
Yeah.
Focus means now.
Okay.
Not on, the past or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once upon a time, I could hyper focus on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For me now, it's be here right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. All right.
What about for you?
For me, it's funny. Focus is certainly, we all heard it when we were growing up and in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Focus, pay attention. And many times it was about paying attention to someone.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that too.
Kind of like an external thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so
focus on the out there. Okay.
Yeah. Focus on something external, although we didn't use those words, right?
Sure.
So I think it could maybe be similar to the word notice, although I'm not sure. But there could be parts of that word that could be similar to notice. I think because we're talking a lot about, internal states and things like that. I don't know if I use the word focus very often.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Even though it's on my sweatshirt, I'm not sure I use it very often.
Huh.
Is it's a training one I use for when I go to the gym,
Mhm.
and so that's kind of the company I think was like focus. And,
Yes.
then there's
Certainly. Yes.
strength and those types of things. So I think that's
Mhm.
kind of their bid, but
Mhm.
yeah, because focus to me too can sometimes be task oriented. Focus to get this task done.
Mhm.
I need to focus on this to get it finished.
Mhm.
So I have that old
Mhm.
historical assignment, focusing to get this done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, sort of it being from a thinking space,
Yeah.
right? Sort of like focusing on something external, like the task would be external. Although, so nothing bad about focus because there are times when we have to focus.
Yeah.
We got to get tasks done,
Mhm.
or we've got a challenge that we're wanting to meet for ourselves,
Mhm.
right? And making sure that we're focusing on that to whether it's a behavioral challenge
Yeah.
or something, something like that,
Mhm.
then or productivity or something like that, then that comes in quite handy.
Yeah.
We would need to be able to do that. And I think too, like different people have different needs around focus
They do.
or structures
Mhm.
around focus.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think what it comes up for me too is that's different from fixating, isn't it?
Um, yeah, say more about that. What do you think?
Uh, I don't know. It just sort of came up to me. Is it fixating too? Like I'm trying to think of the applications or how I've experienced it. Like fixating when I talked about not focusing on the past. That's not the word. Fixating on past mistakes or fixating on a worry or fixating on some story about something that may or may not happen.
Mhm,
That's different than focus to me.
mhm. Yeah, it almost the fixating sounds a little bit like ruminating,
Yeah.
like more of an intense,
Mhm.
uh, attention
Mhm.
to something to where it really then infiltrates
Mhm.
a good chunk of our energy level.
Right. Right. Focus doesn't seem to indicate that to me.
I don't experience
Yeah.
focus as something like that.
Yeah, me neither.
I do, it's more it's narrower than being open.
Yes.
Right? Or, looking at so I think about it as something like looking at like lots of different pieces to something. Focus to me seems like, okay, let me just look at this one piece of this thing
Mhm.
instead of experiencing the bigger piece of it.
Yeah.
And there may be need times to do that,
Yeah.
right? Like if I want to clean my kitchen,
Mhm.
I need to focus on the sink. What's in the sink for starters? If I go into my kitchen and it needs to be clean and I'm looking at the counters, I'm looking at the refrigerator, I'm looking at the sink, I'm looking at, the stove. Okay, where do I focus first? Because otherwise it can feel quite overwhelming.
Right. Right. You do have to choose a place to focus on
Yeah.
or a task to focus on
If we're
first.
wanting to get something done. So being task oriented or productivity.
My first thought with that is what did hubby Dave do to dirty up your kitchen so massively?
I know. I know. When I was saying this out loud, I was like, oh geez. I'm giving the impression that my kitchen is disastrous. What did I do here?
No, I just saw an
But
opportunity for a really
but
cheap
it's
joke.
true. Yeah. No, like I
Sorry,
have
hubby
I
Dave.
have to take some of the blame. I'm the one who's actually in there more often because 'cause I'm at home more than he is, right?
Right.
So, I do have to take some of that blame. But I know for
Sorry.
myself the way I process, I
Mhm.
like to look at all the things at once,
Oh, yeah.
right? I like to look at across my life. I like to look at all the components and I'm
Oh
pretty
my
good
gosh,
at it.
yeah.
I'm pretty
Mhm.
good at looking at everything at once and then being able to, parse out,
Mhm.
right, what is maybe most important, whether I'm in a conversation with somebody or whether I'm looking at, my own experience. But when it's an external task oriented sort of thing, I can get really overwhelmed with all of the pieces of the thing. I know
Oh,
I need to
interesting.
be like, okay, let's just focus on the sink right now. Right. And then we'll go to next steps. I'm a person who does much better when I don't multitask if we're
Yes.
looking at tasks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that resonates with me. I used to think I was a great multitasker.
Mm,
I am not.
most people
I know.
I know.
I know.
Mhm.
It's kind of, and yet we whisper it in hushed tones, right? Because
Mhm. People
the,
pride themselves on
I
that.
know.
I don't want to
All
take
people.
it away if they really need to hold on to it, but really,
Ask yourself.
anyways.
Yeah. Ask yourself. Open-ended question. Yeah, the image that came to mind for me wasn't a sink. It was the jigsaw puzzle that my mom and dad had at their house that they were working on for over a month. I think I mentioned it on here before. It's all faces of Lego figures. That's the whole thing. So they all look alike minus these little different changes. And I would go over there and I'd look at this thing and I couldn't even do it. Like I had the exact opposite. Like there's so many pieces,
Mhm.
so many gaps, so many holes. Like the idea of picking up one piece and fitting it in. I'm amazed at their ability to do what you were just talking about. It's like I'm aware I have to build this big picture, but I have to move one
Mhm.
piece at a time. It was cooking my noodle every time I looked at it.
Mhm.
And I was aware of it. So I'd pick up one piece and I would joke with my dad. It's like, okay, try one. Oh, okay, that didn't work. I'm done.
Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
no thanks.
Mhm.
It was too overwhelming to look at.
Yeah.
Sounds similar.
Yeah, and that's the part around we all are different.
Yeah.
And how we focus, what we need to be able to focus, and certainly our interest level will play into this too, right? So wanting to make sure that we're not having to fit a focus mold to be a person who and a story about ourselves
Yeah.
that we are and able to focus,
Right.
right? Or not able to focus.
Right.
So building that awareness in ourselves
Mhm.
around all of that is gonna be super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And trying to do it seems without an assignment of value one way or the other.
Mhm.
If I have difficulty focusing, even that by itself is
That's a story.
that's a story.
Yes.
Right. It's because even saying that is not really addressing anything that might actually be happening.
It tells us nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
We hear it all the time.
All the time. Yes.
All the time.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, hmm. So funny we're talking about focus, and I'm not sure what to focus on.
When we don't have to focus on anything. That's part of the thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
with things come at least in our circumstance here, we're gonna find something to talk about. It's going to happen.
That's never a problem.
Right. We're in this room,
Mhm.
and the purpose is to have a conversation. We're gonna have a conversation
Yeah.
with whatever comes up.
Yeah.
Right? So we put this extra pressure on ourselves to have to focus on something,
Yeah.
right? And we have a story around it, and we have a story about ourselves in relationship with it, one way or the other or a different way.
Mhm.
And that informs us about what's possible for us.
Yeah.
And and some days we just might not feel the energy level to focus on a particular thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we can't focus. It just
Mhm.
means that today my energy level
Mhm.
is such that I am more interested in putting it towards this thing
Mhm.
rather than that thing
Mhm.
because whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's the part of that focus piece is really there's a lot of shoulds, I think,
Yeah.
attached to that in our conditioning.
Mhm. There's those bullshits again.
Mhm.
Yeah. We
Mhm.
should be able to focus on this,
Get this
get
done,
this done
complete it. Yeah.
in a certain time. And if
Mhm.
you can complete it in a certain time, that can mean that you're quote unquote focused. And if it's not in that certain time, which may or not be arbitrary, that might mean you aren't focused.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, it is interesting. These are powerful words that we kind of use without necessarily really thinking through
Mhm.
what they could mean.
Mhm. And the other thing is do we really need to focus as often as we talk about?
Just what I was thinking.
Right? Do we really need to do that? I mean, if if I if I go back to my kitchen, right? Like if
Mhm.
I just go in and do something,
Mhm.
something got done.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't need to put pressure on myself to focus on one thing and then the other and then the other and
Yeah.
then the other.
At the exclusion of other things
Right.
necessarily.
I don't have to do any of that.
Right. Right. I mean, I suppose it's one thing. Like if the deadline for your taxes is coming up and you've left it till, an hour before it's due, you might need to really push everything else aside to get it done, I suppose.
Well, and that wouldn't be a focus problem.
Right.
That would be a
That'd be a
procrastination
procrastination
problem. I mean,
problem.
let's just be clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But see how tricky that can be. Somebody could say, "Oh, I need to focus on this right now. I can't focus." Well, you have tons of stress because procrastination has led you to this moment. And I speak this, by the way, from personal experience. I'm not making up somebody else's story.
Mhm.
I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I never saw it for what it was.
Right. That would be if we've had a lot of practice of waiting for the deadline to actually do things we don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to continue to do that because
Mhm.
we've had a lot of reps doing that.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with focus as much as I know really well how to wait for the last minute
Mm-hmm.
to finally get a thing done.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
And yet I've done this myself and heard other people describe that as a problem with focus.
Yeah.
When really it's a problem with follow through at an earlier moment.
Mhm.
Procrastination problem.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the stress of the moment can certainly, I think, make it hard to focus.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, in a more stressed state,
Mhm.
we have less ability, we have less connectivity to our executive functioning portion of the brain,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
the prefrontal cortex is turned down a little bit when we have high stress,
That's right.
and that's where we're going to want that to be turned on if we're going to focus on something that we need to think about.
Oh, man.
So we want to do those more thinking tasks in a non-stressed state
Yeah.
to get the best out of ourselves,
Right.
right? But it's all about what's familiar,
Yeah.
you
And when
know?
you go to what's familiar, that's where you go. When I was in college, and it took me a long time to break this habit. And actually, it took going deep into graduate school to do this when I couldn't pull that off anymore.
Mhm.
I became very good at pulling off papers last minute. That's what I told myself. Pulling them off and getting good grades on them, right? After a while, that you can't get away with that at a certain level. And so then it became more of like, whoa, okay, why am I not getting started on these earlier? How would I feel otherwise? But that's the thing is I've noticed it a lot that the cortisol, the stress that comes with that, if that's what you're used to, it can sure seem sometimes like I would tell myself a story. I'm really good under pressure on the deadline. I'll just wait.
Mhm.
And I could do it,
Mhm.
but the cost was immense. I'm staying up a whole weekend or a whole night
Mhm.
doing something, and then the cost laying out for the rest of the week, physically,
Mhm.
emotionally,
Mhm.
right? Attention-wise, relationally, was always, in retrospect, I look back and I go, man, just carnage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other part of that is we're probably not going to get rid of all of our conditioned behaviors,
Of course.
right? And so we can kind of get choosy around, okay, what has less of a cost,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so, you know, we've learned that this like procrastination can be a big problem, and sometimes maybe it's not, right? Sometimes maybe it's not. That's another story that procrastination is a problem.
Yeah, by itself is. Yeah.
And if we're going to get if we need a deadline to get the thing done, and we get the thing done well enough,
Mhm.
like you said, at a certain level, you weren't getting it done well enough anymore,
Exactly.
right? So it was working
It worked up to a point. Yeah.
up to a point. And so as long as that's working and you're doing a cost benefit analysis and it's sort of like, you know what, this is actually not so costly to because I get that adrenaline.
Sure.
I get that sense of like, "Oh gosh, now I gotta do it, so let's turn things on," right?
Mhm.
And it works, great. Don't make it a problem. But when it becomes a problem,
Yeah.
right? Well, then that's the time that we've gotta redo some of the
Yeah.
habits.
I'm grinning because I'm like, yes, thank you. Okay. But then as I'm thinking about it, what that requires though is spending time paying attention to your responses to those things
Mhm.
on the other end.
Yeah, awareness.
Being able to, yeah, being
Mhm.
aware and not even necessarily evaluating, but just noticing. Oh, okay, that's not good enough. That's not good for me.
Mhm.
Which means you can you can, I guess, continue to keep doing as before, but you can't really pretend that you don't know that it's not hurting you at that point. And my experience with that is usually that's when something begins to change because I go, oh, okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, the cost became too great for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My most recent example of that, you're going to chuckle because you remember this. Sleep. That was a big one. About a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
We had that conversation. I was willing to trade off
Mm-hmm.
less sleep for these other things until I wasn't anymore. I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I remember really clearly you suggested I just go for a month, see what happens. Put yourself on a bedtime for a month. Even if you can't sleep, just lay down, and of course I had no problem sleeping. And it was so much better. I could try and go back, but I couldn't really pretend anymore that I didn't know that there was a definite cost. And it's been much easier for me. I get so much more sleep now than I did before.
And sleep is the foundation to our health.
Huge. It is massive.
Yeah, it is.
It really is massive.
Not that we want to focus on sleep, because if we focus on sleep, that might be a problem. But setting up a structure so that we can potentially get more sleep if we're not getting enough.
Well, it's helped, and it's even been other things too. Not for me, an important thing is about an hour before I go to bed, not having any screens on. Not my phone, not the television, not my laptop. Read something else, meditate, do something other than stare at the screen, because what that does biologically to our receptors in our brain about, it's when I do that, it's at the point where when I stop looking at screens, it's like my body knows what's coming.
Yeah.
It just goes, okay, let's start winding you down. And I start reading something and I'm a few pages in and all of a sudden okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
And the more sleep we get, the better we can focus.
There you go.
Right.
That's clever.
And, not too much sleep, but most of us aren't getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
So if we're getting closer to that 8, we're going to be able to focus better too. So if we have things that we need to focus on, prioritizing sleep is going to be really important.
Yeah. And just even on that, when you and I had those conversations, I was at about 6 hours. I've been averaging about 7.5. Like, that's a huge difference.
It is huge.
And I remember the first day I noticed, okay, well, how many extra hours does that give me a week? It's over an extra night's sleep.
Exactly.
And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I robbing myself of here?
Right.
And I did it for years. Right. So, and the good news is you can start doing that and feel, you don't have to make up all those years to feel better. You can start feeling better right away with sleep. Yeah. It's remarkable what it does. It helps with what I'm craving food wise or what I want to eat. There's biological reasons for that. It helps with working out and getting exercise and being motivated to go, being excited to go. It certainly helps in how I show up for work, show up for other people, how well I remember things that I need to do.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It is. It is. It is life-changing. And it probably helps for procrastination.
Totally.
In those times when you're like, okay, I don't want to procrastinate on this anymore.
Actually helps results follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also the added benefit to me too of going through the process of taking care of myself enough, getting, I feel good. Like I'm taking this intentional step to get to bed. Cause I love to stay up late. I like the alone time. I like the quiet. I like the power, feeling of power it gives me, right? On some level, like everybody else is sleeping and I'm still going, but it's not helpful in that regard, and so, now I feel that way sometimes when I'm up early in the morning and I've gotten a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, yeah,
the mornings
I'm up and
are
going.
the best. The mornings are the best.
I'm slowly moving over, becoming more of a morning person.
Yeah. I was talking to one of my clients who is in high school. And he is averaging about 5.5 hours of sleep a night. And when I hear this, and his body aches all the time.
Ouch.
And he's an athlete. Not doing as well as he'd like and his body aches all the time. And I just We are working on sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is
Might be a symbiotic relationship between all those things.
right.
And by maybe, I mean there is.
Right. If your body's not sleeping, you're not going to feel really good in your body.
It's not repairing.
No.
It's not resting. It's not rejuvenating. It's not distributing.
Yeah.
It's not doing all those things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know. So you can imagine the stories
Oh my
that he
goodness.
has about himself
Yeah.
that have nothing to do with sleep.
Yeah.
That he thinks.
That he thinks, right. But yet you notice that sleep would help. And it's a proven necessity. It's a proven beneficiary of so many other things.
Mhm.
You know, we think about diet and exercise a lot. Sleep should be equally alongside that or higher, in my opinion.
Oh, it's the first thing.
First thing. Yeah.
First thing, because then the diet and exercise comes naturally.
It really
with enough
does.
sleep. If we don't have enough sleep, that diet and exercise isn't going to be happening very
right.
well.
Right. All
for
right.
us.
So yet another reminder that these things there's biological, physiological components to all these things that we're talking about.
Yeah. So my question is, did the topic of focus make us tired? Because we were talking about focus, and then all of a sudden we're talking about sleep. So did we just have too much? Like, was it the kitchen thing that
I don't
just
know.
really
We just lost focus. I don't know. but it all fits together.
It does.
It all fits
Hey,
together.
we can make it all fit together.
It all fits together.
It does.
And this is how all our minds work. We jump around. You think about conversations you have with people. They always hop around.
We do. Absolutely.
So we're not.
No.
It works.
No,
Anyway.
not at all.
We hope you followed all of that and enjoyed all of that, and maybe you're interested more in looking at focus and getting better sleep. Those are good things. But certainly we'll be back next week, hopefully well rested, lots of sleep.
Every day.
We'll see how focused we are until then.
Absolutely. Mhm.
And so thank you so much for spending this episode with us. Until next time, I am JDK Winnikin.
And I'm Tawny Santabria.
Get some sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe you'll focus.
Stop. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, I do the live ones too. Yes, I know. I saw your act in the theater. You're really quite good.
Quite a certain harmful habit.
Stop it now, I'm leaving.
I don't think he felt anything after the crash.
Un second, Jackie.